I've never been the type of person to truly connect with people my age. I don't like the clubs. I don't like the partying. I don't like all that. Like I did for a certain amount of time, but that didn't really last long. Like I'm 21 years old. I don't club. I don't party. I don't do none of that. I just work, focus on my business, read, get closer to God, listen to old music, finding old songs. Like that's all old head stuff. But I find it so cool because you're generally not like anybody else your age.
No one really knows me. A majority of men agree with that statement. Not, I wish people knew me better. Not, I'd like more friends. No one really knows me. Think about what it takes to arrive at that sentence. To look at your family, your friends, the people you spent years with, and conclude none of them had actually seen you. That's invisibility. And for a certain kind of man, this isn't a failure of effort. It's not because he didn't try hard enough to connect. It's because he learned, probably before he could articulate it, that the real him makes people uncomfortable. The questions he asks, the depth he craves, the way he notices what everyone else ignores, the exhaustion he feels after conversations that go nowhere. So he built a shell, a confident, competent, normal exterior. And he's been living inside of it ever since, wondering if the problem is him. Or maybe he's a deep water creature being told to thrive in the shallows. Today, we're going to talk about that. Let me be clear up front. This has nothing to do with age. A 22-year-old can carry this weight. So can a 70-year-old. Old soul isn't about how many birthdays you've had. It's about how deeply you process life while everyone around you skims the surface.
Did you know that if you were ever referred to as an old soul, it could be because you were tasked with responsibilities at a young age that are typically reserved for adults, whether it be from taking care of another sibling to reading the body language of adults and your parents? Is it a bad thing? Not in most cases. You probably gained a strong sense of intuition from it. But in some cases, it could mean that you scale your self-worth based on how able you are to fulfill other people's wants and needs.
There's a type of man who's been called too serious since childhood, who got along better with adults than kids his own age, who asked, but why, until someone told him to stop asking. He's the one who sits in a room full of people and feel more alone than he does by himself. The one who's been told, oh, he thinks too much so many times he starts believing it. Psychology calls it highly sensitive. About 15 to 20% of the population have nervous systems that process information more deeply. They notice subtleties others miss. They need more time to integrate experiences. But here's what the research misses. For men specifically, these traits create a particular kind of problem. Because everything about how we raise boys says, don't do this, don't think too deeply, don't feel too much, don't need time alone, be simpler, faster, louder. So the old soul boy learns to perform. He builds what researchers call a hard, confident shell, a mask that protects him from judgment, but also imprisons him in his own performance. And the tragedy is that the shell works. People accept the performance. They never see what's underneath. Here's something that should trouble us. The traits associated with old souls, deep processing, intuitions, sensitivity to subtleties, these aren't flaws. In different contexts, they be called wisdom, discernment, emotional intelligence. But in modern life, they've become liabilities. Think about what our system rewards. Speed over reflection, volume over depth, constant availability over necessary solitude, performance over authenticity. The man who needs to sit with a decision, too slow. The man who notices the subtext everyone is missing, he's overthinking. The man who needs quiet time to recharge, antisocial. He learns that his nature is a problem to be managed, not a gift to be developed. One man put it this way: I feel like I'm swimming in deep water while everyone else is happy to be water bugs, skimming across the surface. That's a design difference being treated as a defect. And the cruelest part? He's internalized it so completely that he pathologizes his own depth. No, nothing is wrong with you. The shallows got crowded. That's all that happened.
So I'm going to give you 3 signs that you're an old soul. And there are way more signs than this, but if these resonate with you, Let me know in the comments. Number one, you are weird. And this is a good thing because it just means you're not like everybody else. You don't fit the mold of what the influences of your life and society told you that you should be. You have a mind of your own, which more times than not causes you to go against the grain of what's considered normal. You kind of just bounce to the beat of your own drum and you embrace it. Number two, you have a discerning spirit. You can read people and situations on a very deep level. And you can see how relationships and situations are going to play out long before they actually do. You can read through the words that people tell you. While most people are listening to the words people say, you can see deeper and see a person's motives behind their actions and words. Which leads me to number three. You've always been somewhat of a loner. While you love people and may know a lot of people, and a lot of people may know you, you often prefer to spend time away from the crowds, and instead you rather be in the company of your own self. Mainly because you value your peace more than anything, and you refuse to allow anybody to disturb it. So your cutoff game is super strong. Once you realize that a person or a situation is not in alignment with your path, you're done. And it ain't even personal. You just understand that everybody ain't for everybody. Also, because your alone time allows you to think for yourself and separate the influences of others from what is authentic to you. You don't have the hive mentality. And if this resonates with you, understand that the world needs more people like you. Weirdo.
Let's talk about why modern life is structurally hostile to men like this. In 1990, 3% of men said they had no close friends. Today, that's 15%. A five-fold increase in one generation. The spaces where connection used to happen organically have eroded. Work is transactional. Dating is gamified. Friendship requires scheduling weeks in advance. And here's what matters for old soul men specifically. They don't just need connection. They need meaningful connection. Service level interaction doesn't register as connection at all. It registers as another performance. Harvard researchers call it existential loneliness, a fundamental sense of disconnection from others, from the world. Among lonely adults, 57% said they couldn't share their true selves with anyone. More than half of lonely people have concluded that authenticity itself isn't possible. That's not a personal failure. That's a system that has made genuine connection structurally unavailable. Old soul men tend to carry existential questions more heavily than most because they're paying attention. They noticed, probably as children, that something about modern life doesn't add up. That the script everyone is following leads somewhere hollow. One man described it. I have a hard time with unfairness. Not for me, but unfairness to others. Rules set by people who feel the rules don't apply to them. Another one said, I feel everything too much. I see the manipulation. I can't pretend I don't see it. Here's what happens when a man has genuine insight on what's broken and no one he can share it with. The insight becomes a burden. Men aren't giving language for this. Women are allowed to say, I'm searching for meaning. Men get, oh, what's wrong with you? Just focus on making money. Viktor Frankl wrote that meaning comes from three sources: work that matters, love and connection, and the attitude we take towards unavailable suffering. Modern life has made all three harder. Here's where I have to be direct with you. If you recognize yourself in this video, you've probably spent years trying to fix what you think is broken, trying to be more normal, trying to turn down the volume on your own depth. That's not the answer. Research on highly sensitive people show that in supportive environments, they don't just function, they thrive beyond average. Their depth becomes creative. Their sensitivity becomes emotionally intelligent. You're not malfunctioning. You're a specific kind of machine running on the wrong fuel.
I would imagine that most old souls are very lonely people. And one of the reasons for that is immaturity doesn't recognize value in maturity. So let's say you're at a stage in your life where you no longer want to gossip about people, but all your peers are still very much into that. they're not going to recognize the fact that you don't gossip as being a virtuous trait. They're just going to think you're a boring person.
So let me tell you what actually shifts things. First, stop apologizing for your pace. The world runs on velocity. You run on depth. When you try to match the world's speed, you abandon your actual advantage. The ability to see what rushing past misses. Your slowness is not weakness. It's resolution. Second, you need one person who sees the real you, not a crowd. Research shows that meaningful connection has far more impact on well-being than connection frequency. One genuine relationship outweighs dozens of acquaintances. Third, you need work that answers the question why. Old soul men can't run on money alone. The question, why am I doing this, needs an answer better than to pay rent. Fourth, and this costs the most, you have to let the mask slip. The shell that protected you as a child has become the prison that isolates you as an adult. At some point, you have to risk being seen, asking a real question in a casual conversation, letting the mask crack and watching to see who notices. Old souls recognize each other, not through declaration, but through subtle cues. The way someone pauses before answering, the relief in their eye when the conversation finally gets real. You find your people by being findable. I want to tell you something that might change how you see this. 15 to 20% of the population is wired the way you are. That's 1 in 5 people walking around with the same experience of death, the same exhaustion that surfaces. They're everywhere. And they're all hiding too. They're all wearing the shell. They're all assuming they're the only ones, which means old soul men keep missing each other. Ships passing in the night, both convinced that they're alone in the ocean. Every time 2 old souls meet and both stay in character, both perform normal, both keep the shell intact. They rob each other of the recognition they've been starving for. Every service conversation between 2 people who are both capable of depth is a missed rescue. The loneliness isn't natural, it's manufactured. A system trained depth-oriented people to hide, then made the hiding so effective that they can't find each other anymore.
So you have an old soul. That's why you feel more mature than a lot of people that's around you. So you have an old soul. That's why a lot of times even the elders that's telling you things, you have a deeper perspective. You're an old soul. You're an old soul because you got emotional stability. You seem to be in a calm place. You seem to have an understanding that this is an illusion. You're an old soul because you have empathy for others and feel like you came here of service. You're an old soul. You're to nurture this planet to the next level, old soul.
Here's what they never tell you. The world doesn't just fail old soul men, it needs them. They're the ones who notice what everyone else misses. The ones who ask the questions to prevent disasters. The ones who build things that last because they can't be satisfied with things that don't. One man put it like this: I've always been able to step off the moving platform and watch from the side. It gives me a perspective different from those stuck in the stream. That's not a defect. That's exactly what the stream needs. But the same system that desperately needs your depth will punish you for having it. It will call you slow when you're being thorough, call you antisocial when you're preserving your energy. It will promote the fast and shallow, then wonder why everything keeps breaking. Your depth isn't weakness. It's ballast in a world that's forgotten how to hold still. So, here's what's actually true about old soul men. You're not failing the system. The system wasn't designed for you. You're not too sensitive. You're accurately calibrated for a world that doesn't exist anymore. A world where depth matter, where relationship developed slowly, where meaning was built rather than consumed. And you're not alone. Even though everything in your experience has taught you that you are, the first step is recognizing that your depth isn't the problem. The second step is finding environments where your trait becomes gifts. The third step is the hardest, letting yourself be seen. Someone wrote, I've always felt different. I've always felt like I didn't belong. But reading these comments, I realized I'm not as alone as I thought. That's not a small thing. That's the beginning of everything. You're not broken for wanting more than what the surface offers. You're built for a depth that no one ever accessed. It's been your girl, Remi Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.